together, and I think they will continue to do that.
Well, and the thing is too is, right now we've got the end of session here at the California State Legislature, September 14th. And right now, I mean, they're having debates on some of the craziest things around. I mean, they're having a debate right now, or this week they're going to have this debate on whether to allow felons who are in prison to vote. They're also going to have a debate on to allow individuals who have been, I mean, the most heinous of the heinous, people who have life sentences, the ability to get out on early parole.
Hmm.
They're going to, and I believe they are. Um, there is a discussion on whether, I mean, I don't even understand how we're having this discussion. We're having a discussion as to whether or not the human trafficking of a minor is a serious crime. And it's moving itself through
Classified
the
as a serious
legislature.
crime.
It's now in the appropriations committee, and I think believe it's already been sent to suspense. We'll see if it even gets out of there. It was voting down, but because of the outcry from the press along with the public, they had to call back the oddly named for this committee, the Public Safety Committee. They called them back and said, "Okay, we screwed up. Let's go do this all over again." And so, grudgingly, they got it out of committee and moved it into appropriations. But I mean, we're having this discussion now. Mind you, I will preface this is there was earlier discussion as to whether or not to call all human trafficking a violent felony, and that's been killed the last couple of years. And so, the Senator Shannon Grove got smart on this and said, "Why don't we call it? Why don't we work first on minors? So can we agree that human trafficking minors, selling minors back and forth in the human sex trade slave, being drug slaves, that it's a serious felony or it's a serious crime?" And so it's gotten itself out of committee, and like I said, right now it's parked over in the appropriations and committee, and we'll see if it even gets out. But that's a debate they're having right now. Should we make it a serious crime or not? And I mean, you've just got a variety of other issues that are out there, and it's just, and Mike, you look at the retail theft, you look at what's happening in Los Angeles, in Northern California, in the Bay Area, you look at everything in between. I
Hmm.
mean, and I'm just going to say it. I mean, look, I think if we got, how Time puts their Man of the Year or Person of the
Hmm.
Year award,
Hmm.
I think we need to have one for California, and I've got the nominees right now, and that is the two Sikhs in Stockton who beat the hell out of that guy who was robbing robbing their store. I think if you got to have like People of the Year award for California,
Hmm.
I think they're it because they touched on to the frustration and anger that is being felt by so many people seeing people go in and out of their stores and just stealing things. I mean, it's like my sister, as you know, she works at a supermarket, and they've got a security guard there, but the security guard has been told,
Hmm.
if anyone's stealing, you are to leave them alone and let them steal. And it's crazy. And my sister's like, not only do they come in and just take things, but they taunt them to want them to stop them. They will yell at her as they do to everyone. It's like, yeah, that's right, I'm taking this. You can't do shit about it.
Hmm.
I'm taking this,
They
and they
know.
just they go ahead and take it. Yeah, they know.
Right. Right.
And it's bananas. I mean, she's had, how they sometimes when they're the cashier and stuff, they do the tray exchange, right? They get their tray and then
Yeah.
take it out.
Yeah.
She's had people try to take her tray, and it's
I
just,
believe it.
they've had some situations where you've had people coming in and trying to steal something, and someone will say, "Hey, you can't take, just leave it alone, or don't take it." I mean, and they've gotten into fistfights there at the store,
Right.
and it's just
And
this lull
there's
and this lawlessness that we've allowed.
no
Prop
accountability.
47, Prop 57, and Californians. I mean, I'm sorry to tell you, but Californians, you voted for this stuff. You were sold a bag of goods, and it was, I remember Prop 47. What was it? It was something about good schools and safe neighborhoods kind of proposition. And look
Oh,
around, look
oh
at
for
what it's
two,
doing right
baby.
now.
Oh for
Yes.
two. Yeah. By the way, it's not normal. I look at Governor DeSantis in Florida yesterday when the hurricane came through, and someone asked him about any reports of looting, and he said no, because we have a rule here: you loot, we shoot. And you know what? Uh, uh, you make an example of one person, probably as stupid as some of these people are that are doing this. They're not that stupid that they won't get the message.
Right.
I don't understand, for example, why they allow them to do that. I don't understand why they don't prosecute them. I don't understand why they don't arrest them. I don't understand why they don't give like that security guard at the market where your sister lived. Give him a what do you call it? A taser
A
gun.
taser. Yeah.
I mean, and tase the guy and get it on video for Christ's sake, because you want people to see that. You want people that are doing this to see if they decide to do something like that. Right now what we do is we open the door and call them an Uber so that they can get home safely with the shit that they stole.
Well, that guy in
That's got to
Glendale.
end.
Look at the guy
That's
in Glendale that they caught. They caught one of the guys who stole at the Americana.
right,
Was part of the whole looting thing. They brought him in. They booked him, and because they have zero bail, they let him go right away.
right,
And what happens with a lot of these folks is, and this I think people fail to realize, is that the way it happens in California, it's like a park, a fix a ticket. You
right.
go in, there's zero bail in a lot of these areas, or it's just kind of revolving door. You go in, they say, okay, we'll send you a date on when you show up. They can go back out and do it again some other store,
And
and
if
they
you
don't
don't
care
show up, they
because,
don't do anything about it.
well, what happened? Look at all those parking tickets that happen. It's like every 5 years or 7 years they go, okay, well, you know what? We're going to forgive each one of those people
Hmm.
who don't show up. There's the lack of consequences that is happening. I mean, I think, I'm sure we're going to I'll get some hate mail on this, but I think kids need to be spanked more. There's got to be greater discipline. And at the same time is you got to start holding people accountable. And so I think what those Sikhs did, over
Yes.
in Stockton, I think I think to it itself, I think is phenomenal. That video just went international, and I just wish more people would do that. And I just wish, the police, or really it's the district attorneys. I mean, I think sometimes the
Yeah.
cops have their both hands tied behind their back, but I think it's the district
The
attorneys
cops
need
look
to,
at it. Yep. The cops
yeah,
look at it and say, what's the point? Because they're going to
right,
be let go.
or
And
get sued.
yeah, or get sued. And in this case, it's like, it was a good example in the sense of, people see people going in and looting a Nordstrom,
Right.
just literally going by the racks and picking stuff up. And I'm looking at this saying, well, geez, I could have done that last Christmas. My wife would have been happy with what I put under the tree. But they go ahead and do that, and nothing happens to them. And people just don't equate to the fact, well, that's Nordstrom. I mean, there are people in this state that do that. I hear it. Well, that's Nordstrom. They can afford it. And it's like, no, they can't. Look up in San Francisco. Beautiful flagship store that they had there. I remember it from even before I moved here, that store that was up there. It's now closed because of this kind of stuff. But what happened with these two people doing that in Stockton hit home, because those two people can be anybody else that owns a business has enough problems trying to keep their business afloat, with the taxes, with the regulations, with all of the stuff that goes on in running a business in California. And now they have to deal with this, and nobody's there to help them. They're there to help the criminals, but they ain't there to help the business person. And these people who are the business people that took the matters into their own hands, they stood up for themselves, and I think a lot of people could relate to that, because it's not some big corporation like Nordstrom. It's two guys who are clearly not originally from this country. That is, and that's what business is, especially in places like California. It's not the big Nordstroms. It's people who come to this country and come to this state to make a better life for themselves, for their kids or their grandkids, by opening up small businesses like these guys did. And they came to their own defense. It's a shame they had to do that and not be able to call 911 and have someone come and arrest these people and put them in jail. But they said enough is enough, and they did it themselves. And I agree with you. If someone was to be named, the People of the Year in California, I'd put them on. I'd vote to put them on the front cover.
And you know what? And I can't also stop without giving praise over to the district attorney, or the attorney general in over in the city of Stockton, and the
Stockton.
mayor, who who came out and said these individuals would not get prosecuted because there was a question. People
Mm.
had questions. Did the individual get hit too many times?
Right. Oh yeah.
Or he was held down, and as the other one was, hit him with the
Right.
stick.
Right.
Was
Excessive
that too
force.
violent? It's like, yeah, it's excessive force.
Right.
I'm like,
Excessive force. That's
you
why
know,
give everybody. And I remember, and this is a true story. I said this when I moved out here, and I was watching TV. My mom was alive, and she was out here, and along the 210 freeway there was a police chase going on, and we're watching this, and my mom says to me, 80-year-old Italian woman, "Is that real or is that a TV show?" And I said, "No, ma, it's real." And I said, what they ought to do, because everybody's watching this thing, pull up alongside the guy, pull out your gun and shoot him. And everybody that thinks then at that point about doing a police chase will no longer do a police chase. Because they may be criminal, but they're not stupid. If you see what the consequences are of your action, you're probably going to take that into account before you go ahead and do something. And of course, she being the good Catholic mother says, "Oh, shame on you, Michael." But it was, it was just like, it was just like if they're able to do that, and there's no consequence to it, they're going to continue to do it. There needs to be a consequence to it, and it shouldn't have to come from the store owners like it did in Stockton. It should not be that way. It should not be that way that, we were talking earlier about here in LA, there were three girls in their 20s in an Uber car at 6 o'clock in the morning going somewhere. I'm not sure if it was in Pomona or where it was. And someone who was a repeat offender on parole for attempted murder. Released waiting trial for attempted murder in a Mercedes, of all things, going over 100 miles an hour, slams into him and kills all three girls in their 20s. The district attorney who put that guy on the street with all of his previous offenses and an attempted murder charge should, if justice was right, he should be held as an accessory to any of the charges that this person, that person driving that Mercedes is brought against, because they put him on the street. They enabled him to be there. They enabled him to be someone that caused this to happen. There have to be consequences to the people that do it and to the people that allow him to be there.
well, and you're talking about the district attorney of Los Angeles, who
Yeah.
has been one of the leaders in the state of California and around the nation of this whole notion of, because when he got elected, he sent out a directive. And people also forget he was the district attorney over in San Francisco, who implemented a bunch of these regulations or rules about, what, if people commit these crimes, we're not going to hold them. There's going to be zero bail, and we're just not even, it's going to be minor offenses, and basically there's no need for you to even bring them in.
Right.
And now we've got the consequences of some of those policies. The interesting thing for me, especially staying on the attorney general or district attorneys, is are the people of California fed up enough in these counties with what's happening with crime to oust the people that they've got in office? Because if you're not, then if you're happy with what you're getting, then continue to vote the same way. Continue to vote for these district attorneys that are in your counties that are allowing for this lawlessness to happen, or are people frustrated enough and gonna go remove them?
Right.
Because there is a big effort, and I think the other thing people don't realize is there is a huge effort, money coming in from different places, George Soros being one of the funders, to get these district attorneys that are very, what they call, very liberal, ultra progressive, you would call it, really to the point of the radical, to make it easier or more difficult for people to land themselves in jail. And their agenda is don't prosecute, try to get people through rehabilitation centers, and some of that stuff may work. But I'll tell you, when you've got this guy who ended up killing these three girls, that person should have been in jail.
Not only in jail, but to your point, get him into a rehabilitation center. Don't put him back out on the street. When you got a record and you're being charged with attempted murder, you don't put the guy back out on the street. It's common sense. It's just common sense. And why people don't get that in this state, that there is a correlation to the people that they vote for that create this kind of atmosphere. Um, we've said it before. You get the government you vote for,
Yeah.
and that's what The thing about it is, from a bigger standpoint, those are the kinds of things, and I've seen it for a long time, that if somehow something happens to good old Joe, and Gavin comes riding in on the white horse, he's going to look in the rearview mirror and he's going to see a lot of baggage coming in on that white horse with him that is not going to play well any place south of the Mason-Dixon line, or even in places like urban places like Michigan or Pennsylvania or Ohio.
Yeah.
All of that stuff will come with him if he ends up on the national stage. He's going to have to deal with that.
Yeah. Well, Mike, let's leave it here. We covered a lot of topics for folks, and so it's always great getting together with you. Let's do this again.
215, baby.
215. There you go, Mike.
215.
Take care, Mike.
You too.